Hello, my name is David Sepulveda, and today I'll be talking about the obstacles that can be faced between two different cultures. In this case, the cultures that I have chosen for this exercise are Canada and Colombia, and I did this because they are very different. They they don't have a lot in common, like the language, the weather, the sort of population they have, business practice, business practices, the etiquette, or the perspective on life. So, and we'll be talking about this through the Hofstede's national culture model. So, for starters, we want to talk about the power distance. So, in Colombia, there is a lot of power distance between well, for example, people at the bottom of the society doesn't matter in is not counted. However, in Canada is different. They have a tendency to be more egalitarian, and they favor quality of life, welfare, and well, there is more transparency in their practices. So they are very different. Uh, Now, for another important aspect here is individualism versus collectivism. So, Colombia is a very collective is a society that favors collectivism. So we see that, for example, family ties are very important, and people is warmer and more affectionate. And they have a tendency to remain with their own uh, community, and they help each other. However, in Canada is different. They have a tendency, on the other hand, to favor individualism, and the ties between individuals is less frequent. All right, now on another important aspect here is masculinity versus femininity, in the sense of from the perspective of the Hofstadter's model. What this is referring to is that on one hand we have the masculinity um, focus, which is the possession of the possession of material um, property, in opposition to femininity, which is um, when they are focused on the quality of life. We have two examples on this. So, for example, society has universal welfare, universal healthcare. Colombia barely has any of that, and most Colombians um, are under the line of poverty. In Canada, the situation is completely the opposite, of course. Now, so in Canada, we see that they tend to favor quality of life. Not but in Colombia, that is not the case. Also, long term focus versus short term. So this one is I found mixed information about this, because Colombia, yeah, in my opinion, we don't think ahead. People is not thinking about their pension, or they think that they are never going to retire, so they don't invest in that sort of thing, in an investment fund, for example. However, Canadians, what they do is that, yeah, they want short rewards. They favor change in society. However, what we can conclude of this is that Colombia is a country that is focused on short reward, and short gratification on certain things. Um, so we're not thinking about the future. And on the other hand, we we seem to favor patience as a virtue. We think that patience is a virtue, and when we don't like change, we try to keep things as they are normally. One explanation of that is our political system, that has been ruled by the same people, and we don't want to change it. So we don't favor change. Now, this one is very important, and is and in and we I see a reflection of myself here, is the indulgence versus restraint. So indulgence, we see, well, the gratification of pleasure, to enjoy life, and, and basically to be in control of our lives. Mm, so both societies have some similarities on this. However, I believe that Canadians are more indulgent with themselves, because, well, they for example, they have approved the recreational use of certain narcotics, for example. And in Colombia, that has been done as well, but at a much less the at the scale that has been done in Colombia is almost the opposite. So, yeah, and we all know that Colombians are very self-indulgent sometimes. For example, on the seaside of the country, we have a lot of carnivals, as well as on the south side. But in general, I believe that Canadians, they they enjoy life in a better way. So, how, however, we find some similarities now. We also have to keep into account that, for example, we have some cultural differences. So when doing business with a culture like Canada, the obstacles that we may face with them is that, for example, they are very punctual people, and we don't have a reputation for being punctual. They are very understanding of diversity. They have a lot of they have many laws and strong regulation about respect of diversity. And in this country, in Colombia, we know that the respect of diversity is something that is just starting now. We don't have a long history of tolerance, diversity, and others. Well, the people that is different from mainstream. They are not loud people. They are rather quiet. They don't like, at least in the business setting, the loud talking or affectionate expressions of appreciation. They don't like any of that. However, we are, as culture, very loud people, and they have a tendency to be more distant. So we may clash. We may not create a very good first impression if we try to be very familiar with them, when we don't know each other. And that is a common stereotype. So for those reasons, I believe that Canadian culture and Colombian culture are very different, but as long as we see each other through the spectrum of Hofstede's national culture model, we will be able to understand each other better. And as long as we understand, recognize, and respect differences, we will be able to interact and to have successful business relationships and trade. Thank you.